Welcome back to the Bill Boley Podcast. I'm your host, Pat Rodgers, and today we have a very special guest, our founder and owner of Rise Commercial District, Jim Sapp. Jim, welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, we've highlighted so many entrepreneurs, and we have yet to highlight our own in-house entrepreneur. So we're excited to dive into Jim's story and talk a little bit about the journey that took him to where he is today. Jim, give us a little background on kind of where you started your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, I started here in Indianapolis, but I will jump back. I grew up in Blair, Nebraska, and went to the University of Nebraska, and then after graduation came out to Indiana. So I went to work for a large healthcare organization in sales, and I was there 8 years, and about year 5, I got a little bored and started a company called Indie Lube. And Indie Lube was started about the same time as Jiffy Lube. And we continued to build in Indiana, Ohio, Minnesota, quick lubes. And that's when cars needed oil changes for 3,000 miles. So you had to keep coming in quite a bit. Now it's 10,000 miles. So I got out of that business. But Indie Lube grew to about 50 sites in the Midwest. They were small 2 and 3 bay buildings, and I learned a lot about real estate, about growing a company, about the importance of some key people around you. You can't do it all. You need key operations, sales, finance, and accounting people. So Indie Lube grew for about 8 years, and then we did indeed split it up and sell it.
Got it. Awesome. Well, that's a great, first start and a lot of growth there. When you were first getting started, how long did it take you to say, shoot, we need some more people? I can't do this alone.
That happened pretty quick. We had our first store in Castleton, Indiana, and then we were going to Beech Grove, and then we went to Lafayette Square here in Indianapolis, and it was just too much. I was still working full-time for the healthcare business, and I knew I needed a general manager. So I would say it took about 2 years, and I realized I was over my head and needed help.
Got it. And finding that first hire, obviously, sounds like there was some stress involved at that time of, okay, we've broken the levee. We need that next person. How did you go about identifying the right person and being willing to give up some of that control?
You're correct. It is difficult. What is that person, a general manager, really going to do? And can you rely on him? Because I still had a growing family, my healthcare sales position, and actually I hired a part-time manager was managing one of the sites, one of the Indie Lube sites, and I promoted him to full-time general manager. And Dave took the reins and was very helpful and could multitask well.
That's good. Key quality, especially for a general manager. As he was getting into that role, how much coaching was needed to help him essentially take on what you've been doing and hopefully keep it in the same mold, but obviously it's going to be different when you take that control out of your own hands?
Quite a bit. And it was before email and before texting. So there were a lot of phone calls. And we did have mobile phones, but there was a lot of encouragement, and you got to kind of learn how to reinforce people and then also give them some feedback like, oh, you didn't, I know one of the sites, we had never mowed the yard and wasn't looking real appetizing for people to pull their cars in and have oil changes. So just how I handled mentoring Dave, I learned what reinforced him, and then we continued to build, and then we transferred him actually up to Minnesota. So he did a great job. He had lots of energy, but then we sold the company. So mentoring people, you have to learn what reinforces them. And I think one-on-one communication is important, that you can go to lunch with them, talk to them, and also Now we can email and text and all that kind of stuff. So it's probably a little easier
A
now.
little easier today, yeah. Um, as you were kind of getting into that, this is your first, you've been an employee, now you're an owner, you're really taking the reins of this business. How did you build that understanding of how to mentor someone, how to coach, how to lead? Because it's such a jump from individual contributor to leader. And how did you personally kind of come up with those skills and build those skills over time to know how to get Dave to the next level?
I think what's important is you got to continue to educate yourself. And I went to trade shows in the industry. I was an avid reader. There wasn't as many self-help books. I also did a lot of driving with my sales job and with Indie Lube, and I was listening to tapes and cassettes. It was before podcasts. Uh, continuing to educate myself, but then you got to pull out what's effective for you because a lot of things were just not right for our company. So learning that was helpful. And I did have a mentor, a doctor from Nebraska that was a great inspiration to me and still is to help. You need a sounding board sometimes. And sometimes it's sometimes it's your spouse, but most of the time, they just don't understand the business idea, and you need to talk to somebody in business or somewhat connected with the company. So finding, I would say I had various 2 or 3 mentors, and some were more finance oriented, some were more real estate oriented, and some were more people oriented. Um, and that helped me make decisions with staff.
I love that kind of theme of really you're building your own support system within this because the entrepreneurial journey can be lonely, can be very stressful. And if you're keeping all of that in, something's going to go wrong. You're either going to explode yourself or miss something. And so, how did you initially go about finding those mentors for those different areas that it sounds like you felt I need a little bit more here, or I at least need that sounding board here? How did you go about identifying those mentors?
Um, in the finance accounting area, I chose a regional accounting company to work with. And as I was working with them through taxes and financing the sites, I came along a person that I thought was sharp. And I guess I judged him.
Yeah.
And Doug listened, and I thought he was a young guy that knew a lot about accounting and finance. And so I would go to him for finance questions. And then other people, the real estate, I found a friend in the real estate business, and he was my sounding board for should we, and this was before a lot of demographics that I could choose a site. And he would say, oh, this area is really growing in Hamilton County or something. So I think that you need more than one mentor. I think you need to find specialties. And that's indeed what I did.
That's excellent. I think that's so true because we all have blind spots. We all have our own baseline of information, and then how do we expand that because one person can't do it all? And so you had that side. And then I love that you mentioned your spouse because I think there is that not necessarily the business side always, but that ability to vent and share and get it off your chest. How much has that overall support system been there for you as you've kind of taken these steps to grow multiple businesses?
She's been patient. We go and talk about different aspects of the business, the debt of the business. And, she doesn't have the whole background of everything because it's so complicated, especially with Rise, because we've grown so fast and it's gotten so big and so much debt. And sometimes I can tell I'm getting a little over her head or it worries her. But she's still a good sounding board with people. So that's helpful as well.
Yep. Awesome. And as you've kind of gone through this, obviously you had Jiffy Lube, then you had the garage door business, and then that led us to Rise Commercial District. As you're going through that, there's obviously almost countless people now that have been involved in all of these businesses. There are those that you were able to coach, like Dave, and then there are others that maybe weren't as coachable. How do you think about kind of discerning that? Because obviously, as the owner, you only have so much time to give. And when you're growing really quickly, identifying the good from the bad in terms of employees and knowing who to coach versus maybe who to coach out is such a challenge, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs. How do you personally think about that and kind of identify the right people to lean into and the people that probably need to go?
I think you give them opportunities, everybody, and test them. Are they able to accomplish the objectives that you have for the company, whether it's the garage door company or Indie Lube or Rise? You have goals and objectives for a quarter. Are you accomplishing those goals and objectives? And if they're not, I learned very quickly you got to cut them right away. Their goals evidently are different than my goals were. My goals were to build revenue, to build sites, and perhaps they had different goals. So I think it's true. Um, it's good to give people a second chance because something might come up. But after the second one, it's probably time to go to the door.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many stats on, it's by the time you're letting someone go, it's probably 3 to 6 months too late as they're moving forward. And so have you had those experiences where the second chance actually turned something around and you were able to get somebody to the level that maybe they didn't realize they had, or that finally they're meeting expectations and that's proven to be a great relationship?
That's an interesting question. If it's just a little thing,
Sure.
normally people will adjust. But if there's some big things that they're just not passionate about the company, they are not dedicated to getting reports or projects done or marketing done, pretty quick
Yeah.
within the first month to 6 weeks. And it's probably best to let them go right there.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, because I think the hardest part is that balance. You're building and scaling. Each of these businesses were high growth businesses. These were not, kind of slow growth businesses where you've got time to think and you've got time to digest everything. And so when you look at that, is that something that you're looking at in hiring as well, in terms of that passion? Because if you don't have passionate people involved in growth, they're going to be dead weight at the end of the
Right.
day. And so how did you think about that when you were going through hiring?
Um, I think you just have to judge their personalities and talk to them about what's important to them, and what they really want to accomplish at the company. Do they want to just get a paycheck and leave at 4:30, or do they really want to grow and they call you or email you at night? Then you can tell people are passionate about the company and they want it to grow for the company and for themselves and for your tenants or your customers. Um, it's not easy to find those people, but they're definitely out there. I mean, everybody makes fun of millennials. I think millennials work hard too. I
Mhm.
think every sector works hard. So you just have to keep trying and finding. And we've had ups and downs with marketing people or with accounting people. It's in everybody, in every sector. Um, you just got to find somebody that loves what they're doing. They're a great accountant, they're a great marketing person, and then hang on to them, reinforce them. And what really reinforces them is more difficult. Is it bonuses? Is it time off? Is it something you do a lunch once a week or once a month for everybody? And how to reinforce your staff.
That's excellent. And as you think about that, I'm sure there's, the bonus side, the time off, there's responsibility, and there's probably also mentorship and learning in that as well, that they may receive from you or other members of the team. As you think about that side of it, how do you kind of split that time of the tasks of the day versus mentoring or coaching an employee to keep rising and being what you're hoping they can be?
You do have to learn how to kind of juggle things. I'm a morning person, so I come in late and try to get some of the little stuff out of the way, try to take people to lunch, listen to them, listen to their frustrations. Are they frustrated with some of their employees or our employees? And maybe you can help them or give them direction or encourage them to cut that person. So I think one-on-one time is important when you can. If you're busy traveling, emails or text are helpful. So I think communication is key. And I usually have a feeling right away if that person's going to work out.
Sure.
And if they don't, it's just time to part ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready to grow? Rise has your back. One of our customers put it best.
I believe truly by moving into that space, it made me so much more efficient. It made me, again, have a different mindset. Now I need to work harder. So hired more people, created more of a structure and a schedule. My efficiencies went through the roof. My profitability went up.
What started as a 600 square foot warehouse became the turning point. More structure, more clarity, and a business that could finally scale. That's what Rise is built for. Business space with flexible leasing, all-inclusive amenities, and secure locations. So you can move your business forward close to home, but not in your garage. If you're not sure what kind of space you need, head to our website and schedule a free 15-minute space planning call. Finally, leasing that works for your business. Visit risecommercialdistrict.com to learn more.
So kind of coming back to some of the initial things we discussed, that sharing responsibility and letting go of control is such a challenge for entrepreneurs.
It's very difficult.
And so how did you, obviously, it sounds like in Jiffy Lube or Indie Lube, I'm sorry, was initially, it was just boiling over. There was just not enough time. But how did that process for you, letting go of some of those things, what did it ultimately unlock for you? And I'm sure there was some stress in the initial handoff, but what did that unlock for you overall?
Once they learn, you give some people some responsibilities, and usually there's some failures for them. They forget to order the products we needed, like oil filters. So we have a quick lube with no oil filters. That's not a good thing. So, but normally they learn and they go, oh, it's going to take 2 weeks to get filters, not 1 week. But if they're not learning, it's difficult for everybody, for the company, for cash flow. So give people the chance. Say, Dave, you're in charge of Beech Grove now. Be sure all the inventory's there. And if he fails, talk about it. And hopefully that doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Yep. And as you've kind of, 3 or 4 different businesses that have grown significantly, what lessons or changes have you made in your leadership style over the years to either meet today's employee or just through experience you've been able to kind of take those next steps?
Well, giving responsibility to your leadership group is real important. So you give them responsibilities and talk about it in the different departments and see if they're going to accomplish that. I think I really dislike meetings, but I think they're important. So I think quarterly or at least semi-annually, getting your group of leaders together, and we go down to Florida, we meet in a hotel, we do something that we're kind of out of the office atmosphere and talk about what we can do better, how we can solve a problem, work with taxes or the government. I think it's mostly communication and talking to them and listening to them. You got to listen to your staff and they'll say, well, this isn't working in this city because of this factor. So listening to people, you got to listen to your staff. You're not always right. You don't have all the facts. So listen to them and then make a joint decision.
And I love that because I think that hits on that kind of, we all have blind spots you as the owner leader may not be as close to the boots on the ground as you were when you first started the business.
Exactly.
And being able to synthesize what's a real blind spot and what's maybe just, a complaint and being able to decipher that to know where your strategy goes, I'm sure is a learned trait, a learned skill. So how do you think about that, breaking out what is maybe one person's opinion versus a true blind spot for the business?
I think it's important to test things. Through all the companies I've had, there are products or things I thought would be very successful, and they're not.
Yeah.
And you just got to accept it that, oh, that didn't work. Let's change it. And sometimes just changing things a little makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Like, we need to open earlier before people go to work. And they don't want to come to the Quick Lube after 4:30 or 5. They want to come at 7. So just learning little things that do make a difference. Having 24/7 access at Rise is important. People come in on holidays. People come in 5 in the morning to get their products. So you just learn, and you have to learn quickly how to adapt and have better gate codes.
And I love that because we have an example, you and I, of something that we tested. We had a theory that could small cold storage work at our Rise locations. And I think the interesting approach was making a small bet that we could then prove it out and see if that works before the full investment. And is that something that you when you talk about small changes, small iterations, you can kind of make those small bets to see, does this play out well?
Exactly.
Or diving all the way in?
Because you and I thought people would want cold storage in small amounts, and they didn't.
They didn't.
we tried it. We put it at 2 sites.
Yep.
And nobody really needed that, whether it was size or pricing or timing, I don't know. But that didn't work. What they really want is what we give them, 6 or 7 different size warehouses. And it appears to me now that they really want a small office up front. What we call flex space is very popular with a lot of big companies and small companies.
Right.
So you learn from it. Yeah, we lost some money, but that happens. It's educational. It's another master's degree for you.
Yep.
And go on.
Yeah. Well, and I think, the interesting thing for a lot of entrepreneurs is, oh, I see this shiny object. I'm going to pour a lot of capital into it, or I'm going to buy the next truck, or I'm going to buy the next thing. And finding creative ways to test something, in this example, we went and found a partner so that we didn't have to buy a cold storage locker to begin with, which drastically reduced what we could have put into the investment. Are those some of the techniques that you've kind of tried over time? Partnerships, little tests, small investments. And then once you see that, oh, wow, let's get this thing rolling.
Exactly. Like our first Rise site was an old lumber yard. So before we really went out and built 15 buildings at a new site, we took old buildings and accommodated them. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs go out and want a Mercedes or a Cadillac right away. And we buy all used equipment. We buy used trucks. We buy used cars. And that's all you need. They do the same thing. So equipment from forklifts being used to our first site being used we repurposed it. Yeah, that's very smart for all entrepreneurs. You don't need to be on Main Street.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Jim, this has been awesome. If you think about, a couple of things that I want to close out with is first, when you're thinking about as an entrepreneur, how important is it to not isolate yourself and not take the weight of the world on your own shoulders? Because it feels like this is my baby. I gotta push it through. How important is it to get out and find those mentors, find that support system to be able to grow?
I think it's very important. And I don't think you need just one. I think you need, whether it's your banker and having lunch with him once in a while, or a breakfast, or your accountant, or a marketing guy or person. I think you just communicate with them however they want to, whether you go to the track with some people from a bank, or talk to your accountant about taxes after tax season and what we can do better. So I think you need multiple mentors, and it'll help the company grow overall.
Awesome. And as somebody's getting into this, if you were to give them kind of one piece of advice as it relates to the support system around you and what they can utilize that for, whether it be the family dynamic or sharing or getting it off your chest, what would be something that's really the first step if they were going to go out and say, all right, I want to fix being isolated? Where's the first place they should start?
Oh, that's a good question. I think you should test your service or product and not go 120%. I see a lot of professionals, building dental buildings or something, and they're not that big yet. So I think you need to test, and I think you need to keep trying and find different professionals around you that can give you advice.
Awesome. Jim, this has been great to hear your story, share how you've used mentors, how you use coaching, and ultimately building phenomenal businesses with great people that you both mentored and received mentoring from. So I really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Until next time.